what is happening right now is indicative of what we experienced during the civil rights movement. But because we're on the other side of the mic now, they got to put us in a mix somehow. That is the reason why they're coming after people of color first with this attack on the press.
And then
Well, but go ahead.
I just want to know what kind of precedents this sets if authorities just start arresting journalists who are present at disruptive demonstrations.
It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. And we know it's dangerous when a judge said no. We know it's dangerous when several prosecutors said no. So it's not they have already cemented what this administration stands on. And we got to adapt and adjust accordingly because we know that we're following the law, but they know that they're not following the law. And that's what is the issue.
But Thelma, here's the thing here. First of all, this is actually Ben Crump posted this here. This is a video from the Nest camera that was outside of the home of Georgia Fort. As you see, she's meeting with law enforcement. First of all, why the hell is the DEA there?
They had no business being there.
There's a Drug Enforcement Administration. Why is the DEA arresting a journalist? I mean, so understand that. But Thelma, I got to ask you this here. You're a lawyer. This is what really jumps out. You have career prosecutors, individuals who have committed their life to the law in the Department of Justice. What does it say to you when you have career prosecutors in Minneapolis, in LA, who have looked in previous cases, in the case in Virginia, Donald Trump fired the U.S. attorney in Virginia because he would not prosecute Letitia James. You've had after the killing of Renee Good, Alex Preddy, you had 6 or 8 prosecutors who resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office. This is the crazier thing. We was having not just with journalists, it's how they are forcing career prosecutors who believe in the law, who say there's no evidence to arrest these journalists. They're just like, oh, we don't give a damn, and they are firing these people. They are literally walking them out of the building because they refuse to do the bidding of Donald Trump. What does that say about the law?
What it says about the law, when you have individuals who are formerly in a seat that I held as a former prosecutor and a former magistrate judge that handled the very same matters that warrant why these career prosecutors and these career judges said no, it is literally saying that they do not give a fuck about the law. They are above the law. That's how they have handled this administration from day one. So when you see these prosecutors coming out in the masses and said, no, not only do I have the Constitution to uphold, I have the oath of office and I have the oath of the license that I took and I swore on to say that I am going to do justice and seek justice, not seek to be above the law and not follow the law.
Thelma, this is incredible. Ken Delanian of MSN Now. Actually, Ken is a great reporter. I actually worked with him when he we were both at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He was a county government reporter. I was a city hall reporter. This is what he just reported. 2 people familiar with the matter tell MS Now News that the special agent in charge of the FBI's Atlanta field office, Paul Brown, was forced out of that job earlier this month over his qualms about and refusal to carry out the searches and seizures of the Fulton County ballots. And this is the thing that I'm saying. When you take this story, they forced out the Black Admiral when it came to the killing of shooting down of Venezuelan boats. They're forcing out prosecutors. What these people are doing, they are forcing out very highly, eminently qualified people who refuse to break the law, who refuse to do things that are illegal. These people do not care about the law. And that to me is what is shameful and despicable. And they're doing it on the taxpayer dime.
Here's the thing that I want to specifically speak on. And this is the reason why I wrote Shut Up and Prosecute, because I have witnessed when you have an unqualified individual that is running a government entity, one of the most powerful entities in your state, you cannot have a yes man. A yes man to injustice is very dangerous. And this is what we are seeing. What we have to see now from these prosecutors, or what side of law are you going to stand on? Are you going to stand on the right side of law, or are you going to stand out on the wrong side of law? Because we need to see you. We need to know, because we have not only on the local side, we need to see on the other side, because this has been happening for a while. And I said this year is the year that skeletons were going to come out in every avenue, every profession. And we're seeing the skeletons of the legal system being put on display that has been this way for Black and brown people for the entire existence, as to why we have a criminal justice system.
Hey, Brittany, AG Pambani just dropped this video here. It's a 16-second video that she dropped on Twitter.
Make no mistake, under President Trump's leadership and this administration, you have the right to worship freely and safely. And if I haven't been clear already, if you violate that sacred right, we are coming after you.
Let me just get your initial.
But I can tell you right now, don't be shocked. These people get embarrassed like they did in the James Comey, Letitia James case. I think that's what's coming. And so that's going to happen, Brittany.
You know, Roland, what does this moment say about the current relationship between law enforcement, protest movements, and the press here in America?
Well, actually, let's bring in Wesley Lowery, editor of BlackStarNetwork.com. He knows about this here. Of course, he was with the Washington Post and the Boston Globe. And here's the deal. He was there in Ferguson, and he can speak to how law enforcement, how they treated the press. Wesley, go ahead. Wesley, you on mute?
All right. Can you get sorry about that, folks. I'm thinking about a few different dynamics here. Obviously, like Roland, like Brittany, like almost everyone, Black journalism is a small world, so I know Don. And previously served on the board of the National Association of Black Journalists and also the Freedom of Press Foundation. And as Roland, I think, alluded to, back in 2014, covering the Black Lives Matter demonstrations in Ferguson, I myself was one of the first journalists arrested among dozens of journalists who were eventually arrested. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about, speaking about, interacting on these issues. I think a few things immediately come to mind for me. The first here is, and it has to be said clearly, you all have said it, right? This is egregious, right? This is the deliberate disregard of the spirit and letter of the law. And it is the targeting of critical journalism, accountability journalism, people who would be seen as oppositional, and people who the Trump administration do not see as their constituents, and therefore who they don't see as people who they have to respect or whose rights they have to respect. There's no coincidence that the journalists here arrested, Don and Georgia Ford, are both Black journalists, because there's not the perception that the Trump administration will receive blowback from people who the Trump administration actually cares about for doing these types of actions. But there's something else I want to note just very specifically here, because I think it's important for us. I've been thinking about this across Minneapolis, not just today with what's happened with Don, but thinking about it in terms of the federal action of the ICE agents and the Border Patrol agents compared to what we see often with local police during protest movements and other moments. Is I think it's important to distinguish and to articulate the ways that what Donald Trump is doing are similar and carrying on things that have been done previously, and then to underscore the ways that it goes deeper and further, right? Because I think it's a contradictory two-edged sword where we very often want to claim that everything Donald Trump has done is without precedent and it's terrible and this and that. And I think often it's less comfortable for us to sit with the reality that a lot of what Donald Trump has done does have precedent. That he often does it without pretense. He doesn't try to hide his hand. He's more aggressive. But very often we do see, whether it be arrest of journalists covering protests, whether it's violence against migrants and others. But one of the key distinctions I think I want to make here is we very often, we talk about the role of journalists. The reality is protest and disruptive protest can be by its nature disruptive. At times it can be illegal, right? We think back to the civil rights movement and other cases. When people participate in protest, often they do so knowing they are taking on a legal risk. One of the keys here is the role of a journalist in that context is different. Now, there are times in the fog of war, in the heat of a moment, when a riot is actually happening, when the streets are actually on fire, because the Trump administration is calling this the Minnesota church riots, there was no riot, right? That language, that accelerant language is purposeful, right? They're trying to build a pretext for what they're trying to do here.